The second part, now I debated whether to do this or not. As I'm doing this, I'm getting through my second bout of COVID. I'm right in the middle of it. It's pretty bad. I've been up all night. I'm coughing. I haven't shaven. I tell people I'm a model. I'm just the before picture. So we've got to learn to laugh at ourselves. But I want to be very clear. I am not doing this Wednesday workshop to show off or to say, look at me, but it hit me really hard today. And it was really interesting. So I got COVID. My wife just is getting over it. And we've been struggling. Not serious health. We're not in the hospital. This isn't life threatening for us. So I don't want to minimize COVID. But we hear, and you probably have heard me talk about, why we coach and how we have to be resilient. And I have a philosophy. No matter the challenge, no matter the situation, you either succumb or you overcome. If you sit still, you're succumbing, you're giving in. And I got up today and I was up all last night coughing. I don't feel well. I've got, you know, uh, all these different medicines that I have that I'm, using to get through the days and vitamin C. And I sat there and my wife goes, Tim, you got to rest. You can't go into work. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to talk a lot, even though I'm doing a video. And what I want to do is just get some logistical things done. I won't work the whole time, right? So what I have to do is be very honest with myself. And when I was driving in, there was a report on CNBC, and it was really interesting. I don't know who the commentator was, but he talked about, how we need to be resilient, how the next 2 years are going to be scary with world politics. He said, but the one thing about the United States that we can always count on is we find a way to come through. And he said, to a certain extent, we need to get back to that. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I've been doing one-on-ones. I come into my office. I'm a basement office. Nobody else is down here. I had my mask with me. I mask when I come in. I mask when I leave. I don't go by people. I have my own private entrance. I'm not near people. Okay. So I'm safe. I'm not going into stores or anything like that. And so it really hit me. And I've had about 15 people. And I started to realize a pattern. And again, it's people caring. I'm not against this. This is why we coach. It's about perspective. It's about learning. It's about listening. But it's why we coach, and we have to coach ourselves. Now, I can take today off. I know my clients who I am lucky to have, and the clients that we have are awesome. I don't say that because they might be listening. I mean, we are very lucky. I will not have a client that is mean or rude or treats our people horribly. We just get rid of them, and we haven't had to do that for a long, long time. So as I'm recording this and I'm doing this Wednesday workshop, I've had about 15 people who I said, yeah, I've got COVID. It's been kind of not as bad as the first time, but it's bad. I mean, was up coughing. I'll get through it. It's for me, I'll get through it. All 15 people said, you should take time off. Don't go to work. You got to take care of yourself. And I think it's from a sense of caring. Now, let me challenge that as reality. My employees might be listening to this. And again, this is not about me, but it's about perspective. I don't want this to come off like, look at me, I'm tough. I'm not saying that. That's not my objective here. And I hope that isn't coming off as my intent. I can't take time off. Yes, I can take time off, but I can't take lengthy periods of time off. If I'm not working with my clients, we don't have money coming in. If we don't get paid, my employees don't have income coming in. It's that simple. Now, that sounds theatrical, right? But there are people who have been with COVID for 30 some days. Now I would have to adjust. I run my business very conservatively. We don't have debt. We have money in the bank. And my employees have been great. They've been like, hey, do you need anything? What can I do to assist you? They're fantastic. But here's the reality. When we are hit with challenges, and right now mine happens to be COVID. As I'm even doing this, you can probably hear it in my voice. We have to ask ourselves as employees, who depends on you? And more importantly, what happens if you do not do your job? Now, this is why we coach. Out of the 15 people, not one person said, wow, that's tough. You got to get back to your job. Got to do your job. That's reality. Now, you may not want to hear this. It may offend some people. I'm okay with that. That is my reality. Now, could I take today off? I know some people that I have one-on-ones with today. I know some scheduled things I have tomorrow where I could reschedule them. But I also know I'm 2 days away from the weekend where I can rest. I will not let my challenge undermine other people's objectives and the things they need to accomplish. Now, if I can't talk and my voice goes out, I'll reschedule. So I'm not trying to theatrically say, look at me, I'm near, the end and look at how I'm overcoming. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it gives you perspective. 15 people said you should take time off. Not one person said, get back to work. It's tough. It's reality. Got to overcome it. Now, I have a good friend in Boston, and I'm going to tag him on here. And John is from our military. He served our country. And John and I become very good friends with a company that he used to work with. And we've kind of tightened our friendship since, our company stopped doing business together and John had moved on from the company. And we've just become great friends. John served our military. Now, this is, again, one of these over-the-top theatrical things that somebody could say, oh, well, that's the military. That's different. John couldn't say, yeah, I know we're in the middle of a war, but I'm going to take the day off. I hope some of you are laughing. I mean it that way. And I know my friend John's laughing. So we have to ask ourselves, what will you be proud of if you're resilient? So let me give you more perspective. Before I got COVID, I was at one of our client sites, and I had someone from the manufacturing shop floor come and talk to me. And she said, I'm really getting frustrated. I'm not moving up in the company. And I said, oh, that's too bad. And I said, do you like what you're currently doing? She goes, I'm on my feet all day and, it's hard. I said, yeah, I know it's hard. And it is hard. 7 days a week, sometimes 9 hours a day, you're on your feet all day long. I'm doing this video with sitting. I mean, it's hard. So that's so I don't cough. And I said, so let me ask you a question. And this is the part where I want us to be very honest of why we coach. We need to care. There's no doubt about it. But we also have to forget that we sometimes have to be resilient. We have to overcome and not succumb. So I asked her something, and I asked her a question on the reality side of the equation. I said, so I'm going to ask you something. What are you personally doing outside of work to invest in you, to position you to get promoted? And her first reaction was, well, I work a lot. I said, you've done nothing. Don't give me this load of crap and this esoteric narration of why you can't. The answer is nothing, right? And she looked at me stunned. And I kind of led with a little frustration. By the way, poor coaching. And she said, well, yeah. I said, great. So you've done nothing. And you've got nothing according to you. She said, yeah. I said, okay. What do you want to do? She said, I want to work in an office environment. I want to create some technical skills where I can work in a customer service team. I said, fantastic. Are you willing to spend 15 to 20 minutes a day, early in the morning, late at night, before or after your shifts? She said, yes. I said, fantastic. You're ahead. You've solved 50% of it. She said, what do you mean? I said, do you remember my presentation about bleacher people, fencers, and players? She said, yes. So let me narrate for you. Players have their heads down. They run the plays. Whether the game is 72-0 or 0-72, they keep running their plays. Now, the thing about players, according to the Gallup organization, it's less than 29% of our employees from an engagement perspective or study. That's sad. Less than 1 out of 3 people are truly engaged in our workplace. The rest are neutrally or actively disengaged. That's startling to me. It really is. Now, 41% of people are actually leaving their jobs due to a lack of career development. Companies are not in charge of people's careers. They're in charge of providing opportunities. You, people, such as the person on the shop floor, you are responsible for your career. Today, I've got COVID. It sucks, stinks. I get it. I am responsible for my company. Yes, I could take the day off. We'll be fine financially. Nothing, the world won't come to an end. So what I would share with all of you is that we have to look at ways to overcome and not succumb. Reality is, the reality is we have a tough job. I am not saying to forget care. I'm not forgetting to show empathy. I'm not forgetting to do certain things. But if we always give in, we'll never be proud of the things that we overcome. So think about that. Ask people, what are you proud of if you're resilient? So let me go back to my client at the manufacturing firm. And she said, I'm willing to do it. I said, fantastic. Do you mind some really brutal feedback? She said, sure, go ahead. I said, You're a bleacher person. Every time I ask you, you start narrating why you didn't or you can't. Every time. It's just a load of crap. I've got nothing, but I'm doing nothing. That's on you. That's not on the company. And the tone of your issue seemed like the company was kind of screwing you over. The company's not in charge of you. You're in charge of you. End of discussion. Now, for some of you who have gone through my training, you're like, gosh, I haven't seen this side of Tim before. Look, it's reality. My friend John, who served our military, he can't take a day off. So when I got up today, ironically, there was a Facebook post and John just got engaged, and I'm just jacked for him because he's an awesome guy. And I don't think I've ever laughed with someone more than John when we're on the phone or when we talk to each other. And all of a sudden I got a post about something about his fiance, and we're connected on Facebook, and it hit me at 7:00 this morning. I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay in bed. Gave me perspective. We need perspective. Our people need perspective. It's why we coach. Yes, do people need care? Yes, do they need empathy? Yet people need to coach themselves and be honest with themselves. And then when we're not working, not doing our jobs, when we don't have COVID, who depends on you? I go back to that shop floor, and their numbers were down at one point. And I remember somebody saying, there was a big error that happened with some of the labeling, I think. And somebody started to blame somebody else. I said, here's the funny thing. It's easy to blame, right? She said, yeah. I said, it's easy to blame other people. But do you know that you're all in business together and whether you love or hate each other? She said, what are you talking about? I go, you had a labeling issue. So the customer returned all the product, right? She said, yeah. I said, who do you think lost money? And literally everybody, she couldn't answer it. She goes, well, I don't know. I said, sure you do. You all did. The customer canceled on all of you, not just one person. So when you point the fingers, at the end of the day, the balance sheet doesn't change. The revenue doesn't change. The cost of returning the product doesn't change. You all got the product returned to you. So we tend to forget about who depends on us and what happens if we don't do our jobs. I think we need to get back to, let's overcome. Let's not succumb. Let's get out of the bleachers. Let's climb the fence and get on the field and become players. Now, this may come off very insensitive to all of you. And for those of you who know me, know I'm typically about 98% of the time joking around and having fun. But reality is this. I woke up today and I feel awful. I probably look awful. Yet I like what I do. I'm very lucky to work with people that are great to work with. And it was funny. As I got up this morning, I thought about something that happened last night or the other night. Alyssa, who's our graphic designer and does all of our material and product assimilation and digital design, she has her daycare person has COVID. So she's working at 9, 10 o'clock at night because we can kind of work when we want with some of our jobs. And she said, yeah, and my husband Jake's going to be traveling soon for, club volleyball, which I used to be a big part of. So I know what she's talking about. She's got both kids by herself on the weekends. She said, so when Jake's comes home, I'm going to work Saturday and Sunday nights or whatever it is. Her choice, not mine. And I love that. And there are times when I say, Alyssa, log out. Just count the hours. Don't worry about it. We'll get the work done. And so we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to know why we coach. We have jobs to do. There isn't a company in the world profitable right now giving everybody days off and saying, stay home, feel better. And I know some people need to do that. Don't get me wrong. But the reality is this. I got up today at 7 o'clock. I feel terrible. I'm usually here by 5. I feel horrible. My reality is, who depends on me? What happens if I do not do my job? Now, I had 2 client obligations today. Got it done. It would have been easy to shirk that responsibility, but I have to be honest with myself. What would their impression be? What if I didn't send them those documents? Now, we all make those mistakes, right? We've got to quit giving ourselves free passes for mistakes. Now, if we make a mistake, we make a mistake. But when we make a mistake because we just don't start it or try, that's a load of crap. So part of the reason we coach and why we coach is so people can look in the mirror and ask themselves, what do I need to do? Who depends on me? And more importantly, what will happen if I don't do my job? And here's the big one. what if I do my job? What will I be proud of? So I go back to my clients at the manufacturing plant. We're about 2 weeks into it. And I said, have you been reading? Have you been doing it? Are you sending me the stuff that you learned? She said, yes. I said, I want to ask you a really loaded question. She said, okay. I said, when you're learning, when you're looking into the materials, and she's doing books and video, I said, how do you feel in that moment? She goes, I feel energized. I said, do you know what happens? There's a thing called dopamine where, like runners get this, they call it the runner high. When you run, you get this high. Most people say, oh, I hate running, right? And I've run a marathon. I mean, I had the runner high after the marathon. And I said, you're feeling the energy of what's possible. She said, yeah. And I said, you're overcoming, you're not succumbing. She goes, yeah. And I go, you're 2 weeks into it and you already feel that way. When you fuel your brain with possibilities, you end up thinking there's possibilities. When you sit and do nothing and nothing happens, you're actually kind of complaining about nothing. So what I wanted to share with all of you is, again, please don't put into the chat, feel better and blah, blah. I'll get through it. I don't have it bad like other people have had it. We've had people pass away from this. COVID is serious. My wife is a physician, just laughed. She goes, we say the pandemic's over. She goes, it's not over. Now that's a political statement, but she goes, this thing is going to keep taking twists and turns. And I feel really, really, for lack of a better description, I feel really terrible. And my camera's kind of moving me around. I don't know why. And she said, but Tim, I don't want you to get really, really sick. And I said, I am really, really sick. This is going to run its course. I'm going to get through it like I did the first time. And I think resilience is a really wonderful power. Yet resilience comes from perspective. What do I need to do? What are my commitments? Who's depending on me? Now, if we need to shirk those and communicate to people, I can't work today, people will be understanding. We should be understanding. But the question then becomes, are you going to find a way to succeed? Or are you going to find a way to not succeed? There is no middle ground. So I hope this finds you well. I will get better. I've got juice, cough drops. I'm popping pills. I don't even know if they're the right pills. Now, that's not a great way to end a Wednesday workshop, is it? So send me an email. Please don't send me. I hope you feel better. Thanks for doing this. I'm fine. People have been through worse who work. I think we have to get back to the fundamentals of why we coach, and that's perspective. See, we have this knee-jerk reaction. All 15 people take the day off. Now, one person said, it's tough. Got to work. Got to get through it. Now, I woke up and saw that Facebook post with my friend John McDonald. And my first thought was, man, what would he think if I took the day off? Now, I know him as a friend. He'd be like, Tim, can I do anything to help? Perspective is powerful. The more we get people to look in the mirror, gain awareness, and take action on that mirror sighting, good things will happen. Thanks for your time. I hope this was taken in the tent that it was intended. I want people to think about the fundamentals of why we coach. Thanks, everybody.